unspoken. I have no defense, but that's when mercy walked in. Mercy walked in and pleaded my case, called to the stand. God's saving grace, the blood was presented that covers my sins, forgiven when mercy walked in. I stood there and wondered, and how could this be? That someone so guilty had just been set free. My chains were broken, I felt born again. That moment, that mercy walked in. Oh, mercy walked in and pleaded my case, called to the stand. God's saving grace, the blood was presented that covers my sins, forgiven when mercy walked in. Mercy walked in and pleaded my case, called to the stand. God's saving grace, the blood was presented that covers my sins, forgiven when mercy walked in. Forgiven when mercy walked in.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to apologize for having you been here for a little while. Wondering if the pastor will be coming. You see, we had another funeral, a little baby who born dead. That service had to be at 12 o'clock, but there was a mix-up with the undertaker. He was told for 1 o'clock, but because of the rain, the undertaker arrived about 20 past 1, where we did the service. And you see, I was trying to follow what the master says. He said, suffer the little ones to come unto him and forbid them not. So we had to make sure that the little ones were taken care of first. But at the end of just the time to go for the burial, the showers came down. We started to sing. But then I remember the older ones at church. And I said, we need not to suffer them also. So I asked Elder Jogi to do the committal, and I came here. So please forgive us. But I won't have you be enduring much longer. Now, our scripted text tells us, taken from Psalm 90. Yes, you can have your view. Meanwhile, Psalm 90. The first verse, this was a psalm written by Moses. Not all of the psalms were written by David. So Psalm 90 was penned by Moses. As you look at God and compare God with mankind, he realized that God has no beginning and no end. He says there, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in every generation. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You see, my brothers and sisters, time doesn't matter with God. I repeat, God is a God of time, but time doesn't matter with God. On the other hand, we human beings, we are subject to time. In fact, we are told there are 3 time measuring instruments that bring great anxiety to mankind. They are the timepiece. So many times we think we have time on our side, but when you look at the timepiece, the watch or the clock, realize that time is running out. Isn't that so? Also, the calendar. I remember when I was a little boy growing up, I believe there was a neighbor with a car, and the number plate number was 1971. And to me, it looked like a long way to come. In fact, just a few years ago, before some of you younger ones were born, the whole world was concerned about the turn of the century. Many people thought the computer will collapse. Some people even thought the world would come to an end. You had the Y2K bug. People, were not too sure what would happen at the end of 1999 and the beginning of 2000. But that is far gone. 21 years ago. So when man looked at the calendar, time is racing far ahead of man. So the calendar also tells us that time is running out. And the last time measuring instrument is man's birth certificate or age. There are many people that meet them and they answer the age. Now some people, Brother Maury, try to hide the age. But not everyone who makes a mistake in telling you the age. And many times when they make the mistake, they tell you some years shorter than it really is. Is that so? Because for them, time is running so fast, faster than they can catch up. Minister. So when man look at these things, time measuring instruments, they all say to mankind that time is short and time is running out. But this is a problem with mankind. But Moses says, God is not like man. God has all the time available to him. For 100 years is like a day when it comes to God. And a day is like 100 years. Because God is not limited to time. But It tells us because time is running out on us, whatever we have to do is get it done before time is no more. In fact, Moses recognized, he says, our lives is like a tale that is told. Man's life is like a story. We have many stories. Some are very nice, exciting stories, and some are very long and boring. But one thing I do know from Sister Little Boy, there was a slang saying, all story comes to an end. So the saying, story ends, and the world ends. No matter how long the story, it always comes to an end. No matter how long a person lives, it always comes to an end. That is a lot of mankind. In another psalm it says, all days is like a flower in the field. Now flower is very attractive, isn't that so? When you see a beautiful flower, you're drawn to it. Even the birds and the butterflies, they're drawn to the flowers. But there's something about the flower, even though how fresh and, fragrant it is, it has a short lifespan. If you pass by and see a beautiful rose and you pick it, and you bring it home, no matter how much you cherish it, one of the mornings you realize it is not so beautiful as before. Because the flower always fades. That is my life. Another psalm says, man's life is like a grass which grows during the night. The coolness of the night and the dew fall, and the morning you look at the grass and it's healthy, full of life. But during the day, the sun passes over, and at the end of the day, it withers and dries. That's man's life. So Moses recognized here that man's life has elements as a flow, as a story that is told, as a grace. And he realized that the measure of man's life then, the average measure of man's life then, was 80 years and 10. That is 70 years. And if by reason strength, it may go on to 80 or more. This afternoon, we want to thank God for giving us Brother Regan, the cultural ambassador for this area. He gave him to us for 74 years. You see, my brothers and sisters, when God created mankind, He created mankind in His image and likeness. And it also means here, in God creating us in His image and likeness, it was God's plan his commands, his way of life for them, all will be well. And as they continue to partake of the tree of life, their life will be perpetuity. But we know the story. The thing God told them not to, this is what they did. So after God came down and told man where he was because of his violation, the first thing God did was take them out from the Garden of Eden. It didn't mean that God did not want them to enjoy the luxury of Eden. But the one reason God put them out of the Garden of Eden so that they will not have any more access to the tree of life. Because if they continue to eat from the tree of life in a sinful condition, then they will be perpetual sinners, just living on in the ravages of sin and not be able to die. Because so long as man continues to eat from the tree of life, life will be added or protected, and they live on and on. But even though sin came in very early in the history of mankind, God did not leave it there. God always had a plan for mankind. In fact, before he even made man, he had that plan there. In case man sinned, he will redeem man. And we know the Bible tells us when fullness of time came, God sent his Son to redeem us. Amen. And this is why the best known text in the Bible tells us, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him, they shall live. They shall not perish, but they shall have everlasting life. And another text I want to quote here is John chapter 11, verse 25. Jesus says, he uttered that text at a time he himself suffered the loss of a good friend, Lazarus. And he was about to call Lazarus back to life. But before that, he uttered to the audience around and to Lazarus' sisters, Martha and Mary. He says, I am the resurrection and the life. He or she, because it's he there, it's the end, meaning both male and female. He that believeth in me, though he die, yet shall he live. So my brothers and sisters, we all suffer the consequences of sin. No matter how exciting our life has been, no matter how long or short it may be, it always ends in death. And will continue like that unless Christ comes. But there is hope. Amen. There is a hope. Amen. And the hope we have is not found in any man, but that hope is in God. Amen. Through his Son, Jesus Christ, the one he sent to die in our place, so that we, loving him and accepting him, can be assured of life eternal in his place. So Moses tells us here, recognizing the lifespan of man back then, 80 years and 10, and if by reason of strength, 80 or more. He tells us here, as long as we still have the breath of life lingering in our nostrils, we need to do two things. Every day we wake up and see a brand new day. He asked, recognizing that our life is so short, so brief, in comparing God's life, he says, so teach us to number our days. And why? That we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. My brothers and sisters, we cannot get away from death. As the saying goes, when our number play, we can run. We cannot avoid it, but we can prepare for it. Amen. And in preparing for it, one of the things we need to do is to accept God's offer of salvation in the person of his Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. That's what John 3:16 says. Whosoever. And I thank God for that. Amen. Not who have money, not who are good looking, not who have good color skin, not those that come from the Boston's family. Sorry, minister. He's my friend. Okay. Animals. Are there so many? Whosoever, whether you have no family background, Juku to you, and Juku to me, whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Amen. And you know the pay for it? Salvation is free. All we need to do is to accept it freely from God.